minimum. And then you can decide who you want to go to. All right, tell me when you guys are ready, and I'll say John Edit here. You ready?
Ready.
Do you know that Grumpy Old Teachers is sponsored by Flowbee? That's my haircut. All right, here we go. Ready? John Edit here. Hello, and welcome to Techlandia. How are you doing today? My blue snowball microphone is working. See? I'm in Boise for the first time ever. I'm coming to you from Boise, Idaho, home of the potato. Over across the state and then a few states over to the east in Texas, we have the lovely and talented
Franz. Hello, and I am actually in Austin today, which is not where I live because we are in the middle of our humongous state conference this week, and I got to present today, so I'm pretty excited about this week and my insane drive, which I will talk about later.
Ooh, I hate that drive. I don't like that. All right, very good. Up in Canada, we have the lovely and sniffling
Victoria Olsen, and yes, I am sick. I have been sick home all day, and it's no fun, so I will try to mute my microphone as much as possible so you don't have to listen to me.
That's a goal of mine, too. I'm going to start muting my microphone after I'm done and let you smart people take care of the things. Okay, and our favorite administrator down in the NoCal, we have lovely, talented, and multi-hairstyles of
Amy Fidegi. John, I have to correct you. It's Boise, not Boise. I just learned that this week, and I did not know. I've been saying it wrong my whole life, so it's Boise.
Boise.
Yep.
Okay, good. Because I was going to go to the Boise State store tomorrow and get some swag from the some blue and orange Bronco swag. I want to pronounce it correctly, else they'll probably beat me up.
Right, totally. Watch your back.
Okay, I'll watch out.
Nasty things about the Idahoans.
That's right. The Idahoans will get you. Simon Miller was just pounding on my door. He wants to be on Techlandia, I think.
Wait, is Simon Miller at IETA?
Oh yeah, he was presenting with the same time I was. It was funny. It was cool.
Wow.
He's the one who told me about the pronunciation. So.
Oh, okay, good. Well, why doesn't he ever tell me these things? I don't know.
A better question is, why isn't he tweeting that it's pronounced that way?
Right.
Yeah, he needs to do more for the Idaho culture. We need to get that out there.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same
thing. Down in Northern California, there's an educator I know who's handsome, dashing, and full of energy, and his name is?
It's not me.
You're not full of energy anymore?
Oh, no, actually, I've got a reasonable amount of energy.
Okay, good.
Hi, my name's Carl Lindgren Stryker. I am a 9th and 10th grade world history teacher, about a half hour south of San Francisco.
Very nice, very nice. All right, so we are gonna we're gonna try a little bit with Techlandia. Sometimes we'll guest, sometimes we'll not guest. 5 of us could be here. We're missing David Terrio for the next couple weeks, but we wanted to talk some conferences. I'm at a conference right now. Some of these people travel to conferences, but the first person we wanted to hear from is Franz, who has just gotten back a week and a day ago from EduCon, and it's one of her favorite things. So we're going to let her brief on what she likes about EduCon. Go ahead, Franz.
And I will say that when it comes to EduCon, that is one place that I don't care if the price jumped to 3 times as much as what it is. I will stop eating so that I can go because it is that great. So EduCon is unlike it's not a tech conference. So if you only speak apps, that's not for you. EduCon is really a place where you can go and have really deep thinking conversations about learning, about how we do things, we had a very great discussion on race in education, which we needed to have, and that was the space to have it in, where maybe it's not the space at a place like TCEA or even ISTE. Why that is a whole nother issue, but it's the perfect space for that. And you get to, you're used to going to a conference where there's a presenter with slides, and EduCon isn't that. Sort of like EdCamp, but not like EdCamp. You pitch conversations, and they're facilitated, and the discussion is across the room and everywhere, and it can go into all different types of places, but The crowd is completely different than any other place that I've ever been. And like I said, if I had to sell my left kidney to go, I would do it.
Is it always in the same location, Refrons?
Yes, I should have told that. It's in Philadelphia at Science Leadership Academy at Chris Lehman's school. It was started by Chris Lehman. He created that space. The first day of the conference, you spend walking the halls of SLA and seeing how the kids learn. You get a tour from the students themselves. You get to talk to the parents. The parents come in and participate in the conference. Some are going to sessions. Some are just helping. They're parents of alumni. Kids who have graduated and their parents still come back to help at this conference.
Wow.
I mean, it's unlike anything that I've ever experienced in my life.
I'm wondering if you can talk, like, SLA is kind of this, for me, way out on the West Coast, it's this golden something on a hill. You read so many spectacular things about it, and I'm just wondering if you can share some of the insights that you've gotten from getting to see it in session for a couple of days, to those of us like me who've not had the opportunity to see what it's all about.
So I'm just going to say I love your analogy of SLA, that it's this golden palace on a hill, because that's what it feels like. But when you see the school, it's like an abandoned building that became a school. And it just speaks to the power of it not being about the building itself, but being about what happens in the building and around the building and about the building. Kids are free to think. They're free to make mistakes. They're free to explore. And they really are free to be themselves. It is an entirely inquiry-based school, and the kids have to apply to get in. And you know, there's that whole thing of, well, you get to choose your kids, but even so, these are kids who it is a public school. Let me just be very clear about that. But in our regular schools, like the schools that I'm around, some of these kids would probably be sitting in the back of a room in another school and not really giving the opportunity to be who they are. And it's mind-blowing, just the way that they think, and just it changes you. I will say that. You go to SLA, you leave a different person.
Well, Franz, I was wondering, you're talking about the cost. How much is it the cost? And then does it go back into the school,
Yes.
the money that they raise?
You know, Philadelphia's public school system is fun when it comes to funding, and that's all I can. I mean, it's you can go look. I mean, they're going through some things, but all of the money collected through Educon goes back to the school. And when you go, like, the kids are doing fundraisers around. Like, one of them was really cool. So there's the kids that are doing a project. There was one kid, I guess, doing a senior project on 3D. I don't even know what it was. Here's what I know. I put on some 3D glasses, I look around, and I'm in a different place. And the kid was designing this whole thing. Just, he had been given the technology, and his project was to create these spaces. And so there's an entirely different, like, an organization within the school for that. And so they're collecting little fundraisers around here and there. But every dime that's collected through Educon, and I think it was like $150 a person, even presenters you pay, and you don't care, you just do it. There's a coat check. You check your coat, you leave a tip. You don't check your coat and not leave a tip. I mean, all of it goes directly into the school.
That's very East Coast of them to tip the people like that. That's so much over me. I don't get that stuff. I'm just from the Midwest.
It's the kids, and I mean, it's not like they sit there and say, "Hey, give us money," or like, but it's everything you give is to that school. And I mean, if there was a fund every month to just put back into that school, I would, because it's going directly to those kids, and you see and you experience what they experience when you're there, and you get it.
So, Refrons, being from California, can you explain what a coat check is? I don't know if this is true, but my friend Ashley Williams, we have not had such a, thank you, John, we have not had such a dry winter in 165 years. So, I mean, I'm going next year just for the coat check.
That's right.
I go for the snow. Now, I wasn't, last year we went, it was snowing, because I'm in Texas, we don't get snow like this. It was snowing so hard that we went outside during sessions to go make snow angels. But this year, a storm came in as we were leaving. So luckily, though, I was flying out on Sunday, because if not, I would have been stranded there for 3 extra days. And I would have loved it, but my job, not so much.
I thought you were going to say that you go there for the snow, and you were trying to bond with Victoria Olsen, as we know that Snow is Canada's most famous rapper from The Informer.
Except for that I live in Vancouver, where it never snows. The only place in Canada.
Oh, I miss Snow the rapper. That's pretty cool. And so, is there any other things that we need to know? Like, so is it always at the end of January? It seems like it's always at the end of January. Is there a set time for it? So if people kind of wanted to put it on the radar for next year?
I love how you have these questions ready, because clearly I didn't answer all of that. But no, because I clearly didn't think of that. I get so excited talking about it.
That's
The
fine.
conference is already planned for next year. It is the weekend before the Super Bowl, seems to be when they do it.
Okay.
And I believe it's January 28th or 29th, 30th, something of that nature. I'll just know it's the weekend before the Super Bowl. And so pitch conversations like what doesn't get accepted at EduCon, or sessions like iPad whatever and a gamification blog, except there was a gamification style session. There were sessions like about getting girls involved with STEM. And there were some, I went to a great one that David Jakes facilitated with Christy Swanson about professional learning and kind of what those spaces look like. And then Diana Laufenberg did one on personalized versus individualized. And so it really does challenge the way you think. And I personally need that, because I don't get that all the time. It is not like, it's not a tech conference. It is a let's think about learning conference.
So the session that I proposed, the new Microsoft Outlook app for iOS, wouldn't be accepted at that one.
Not at all. Nope.
Oh, good
Anyway,
one.
there we go. Thank you.
Do you know how many people attend?
I don't know the numbers. I just know it was packed. I mean, that's sort of how I gauge. I mean, packed for that space. It was a pretty hefty space, and each of our conversations, because they're not sessions, we have to be clear on that. They are conversations. There was a nice group of people in each one, and people were everywhere. And they're students, parents, and teachers. It's not just teachers, media people, administrators from all over. It is everybody in these spaces. I could talk about it all day.
Okay, I have a question actually. So I know I've been to conferences where presenters or the facilitators will come in and they have kind of a list of preset questions to guide the conversation. Is that something those facilitators are coming in with, or does it just kind of one big question and it snowballs organically? Like, how does that work?
Ideally, it should be one big question that snowballs organically. But there are some facilitators who I'm sure went in with pre-done questions. And I'll give you an example. I facilitated a session with Sarah, the teacher, over the Rethinking the EdTech conference. And we wrote this manifesto for people to come together and talk about what we wanted to change about tech conferences. And Sarah, God bless her, took the time to write down at least 30 questions on a notebook paper, because Sarah has never been to EduCon, and so she is very much a deep planner. Like every slide, every question, like she was so nervous because I was like, yeah, we're not doing that. But she was such a trooper, and I appreciate her wholeheartedly. But the cool part about doing that session was I went through her list of questions, pulled out one, tossed it out, and the room took over. And that's what should happen. If it's done right. I facilitated another session with Jose Vilson, who is, if I look at my path or track in education, it really did start with Jose and connecting with him and really understanding that, okay, Rafran, you have a voice, you need to use it. And so I got to step in for Audrey Waters, which was huge, to go in to talk about, we facilitated a session on race. Like this was the part 2 session of their session last year, which is the session that actually catapulted me to actually be able to write the book that I wrote. But so that session was Jose threw out a question, we tossed out questions, and people just took over. And it was that's the way it, I think that's the way it should be. If you go in with a preset of questions and slides and it's very structured, it's kind of hard for it to organically grow. It's not supposed to be sit and get at all.
It's very interesting. Well, we know that East Coast people will definitely give their opinions if they're asked, right?
Oh my God!
Oh, there we go. Get one dig in there for So that sounds really interesting. So how's Sarah doing? I'll see Sarah. She's going to come up to IPDX conference, my favorite conference, at the end of the month. How is Sarah doing? She shouldn't feel anything. She is awesome, and we love her.
She is, but it's. I think that when you're very she doesn't mind me talking about this because I think she blogged about it. When you're very comfortable about doing things a certain way, it's hard to step out of that and to not do that thing. I mean, we live in this day and age where you go to a session, and let's be real, most of us finish our presentations 5 minutes before we present. But when you go to the session, yeah, you know, you maybe not Victoria. I think she plans to the T. But
why? Why do you think that?
Victoria, you're what she's saying is it's a compliment. You're not a procrastinator.
I think she's not a procrastinator, but when you're used to this structure of the conference where you are speaking to people who don't know what it is you're telling them, to go to a place where you not only do people know what you're talking about, but they're going to argue with you about it, or not argue, but just
challenge you.
They want to challenge you and they want to talk. That's a different. I think that's a different environment, and so. This was her first time, and she made it through it. She had a freak out moment, and I think she wrote about it, but she made it through it. Now, next year, when she goes again, it'll be a different ballgame because now she knows what to expect. So we'll be doing a lot of book studies and reading between now and then because you have to grow your ability to really think on your feet in those spaces.
You know, that brings up a good point, Refran. So. What do we have to do to get teachers to this growth mindset? I feel like we all have it in here at least. I know I always want to learn because I'm not that smart. So what is it that, like, you know, we were talking about this, sometimes at a conference there's people that they get sent there. They don't really want to be there. They might go to like a Starbucks for a session, not really listen, kind of sit in the back, do their emails and things like that. Is it a teacher's responsibility to have a growth mindset? And I don't know how we get more people on that track. Does anybody know the answer to that question?
I was going to toss this to somebody else to kind of tackle. I think that I struggled with this one for years because in my mind, I think I go to conferences, I go read, I go connect with people. You should do it too. But the reality is I'm sort of putting my feelings on who we should be on other people, and it's not that simple. What about you, Carl, Amy, and Victoria? What do you think?
Carl, unmute that microphone, homie.
Yeah, I know. Carl, you got to get in on this one. Carl, this is your discussion. You got to kick it out, kick some knowledge, Carl.
All right, I'm going to warm Carl up. I would say, as a principal, I recognize and I appreciate that a lot of people on my staff are in different places, right? So when I take a team to a conference, I know that there are some people who are going to be diving in, you know, they're going to be staying after, talking to everyone else in the room, networking, making connections, and they're going to be implementing the next day in their classroom. And then I have some who I also appreciate and respect that we're just whetting their appetite for what's out there. And whether that's a tool or a mindset, both of those have value. And so, of course, I would have my preference. You know, I have a huge mindset bulletin board. It's, you know, nothing that I created. It's circulated all over Twitter. But, you know, that's like right in our main hallway that I'm like, you know what? I just hope that if everyone walks by this enough times and reads it enough times, and if we watch enough TED Talks together and have enough thought-provoking questions and get enough experiences, that we're all going to be in that mindset together. But the truth of the matter is, just like our students, we're all as learners in different places. And so although I would love for these like deep conversations, like I'm ready for that now. Like what Franz is talking about, I'm ready for that. I don't think that I would have been ready for that 3 years ago.
Can I jump in on that? Because I am totally on your wavelength, and this is the conclusions I've been making for the past couple of weeks, is that teachers are in all these different places, and then they have this expectation when something changes that they have to learn everything about it and become experts on everything about it before they can implement it. And the reality is that you can take, like even if you're taking one tool and making little pedagogical changes one step at a time with that tool, that's great. But everybody's in a different spot with that, and I think we need to empathize and appreciate and kind of reflect on our own journeys of where we came from, because I agree with you. I wouldn't have had these conversations, and even you guys are pushing my paradigms as we talk about it, but I wouldn't have had these conversations 2 years ago when I started on this journey. I was still learning how to operate the tools that I wanted to use in the classroom. So I think there's a place and a time for different kinds of PD, and I think and depending on the presenter, there are times when I can just sit in a sit and get session and be entertained. If you've ever been to one of Jenny McGarrett's sessions, like you could totally sit through that woman presenting for hours and be like, you'd leave being like, yes, but other people maybe not so much. Sometimes I need that stimulation of conversation too. So I just think you're right about the appetites. Everyone's got a different appetite, and we have to try to find different ways to meet those needs.
Right.
John, I wonder if we can, and I don't know, the reason I was quiet is that I don't have an answer. I think that that's a really big stinking question. I wonder, though, is it about a growth mindset, or is it about humility? Is it about being willing to not be the expert? Is it about being willing to let go of the reins and trust your kids that they're going to do things, and they're going to do the right things most of the time? And I don't know if I agree with that or not, but I think that there's an aspect of being willing to learn and being willing to fail that you have to be okay with just being wrong and making mistakes and owning and reflecting on them. And I don't know where humility, and maybe humility is the wrong word, but just the ability to be human and not have unreasonable expectations for yourself.
Yeah.
I think it's also that I think that how we define who the classroom teacher is has changed over the last few years. I mean, there was a time when, first of all, before, like you can say it was before the technology existed, because technology really did change this. We were very much in our spaces, in our classrooms. I never even imagined that I would be going to Philadelphia, leaving Ennis, Texas, going on a hangout with all of you who I've actually met. I mean, except for Amy, and that's going to change. But I never would have imagined that this would be possible. So for me, my normal was get up in the morning, go to school, take care of my kids, go home, take care of the other kids. So as we progressed and changed, I think that I think we've done it so dramatically. There's a big piece of us that expects everybody else to kind of progress and change with us, because we're like, hey, the technology changes things. If we can do this, 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 and this, and oh, guess what? You can go to this conference and this conference and this conference, and we forget that just because we have jumped these leaps and bounds and have gotten to this different way of thinking, that everyone has their set of priorities on the way they see life, the way they see their jobs, the way they see how they navigate that process within their jobs and their life. And it's sort of unfair to me sometimes, to a point, to expect someone to do these things because I'm doing it. But then maybe they have to find their own path of doing it. So maybe it's a book here or there. Maybe it's learning how to use a different method, or not just tool, but to really rethink the classroom period. But we also know that part of that is getting them out of their comfort zones, but they're not going to do it if it's not something that a person wants to do.
And I think I'm gonna piggyback on that and say collaboration is a really big piece of that. And I don't think like network collaboration like a PLN is for everybody. I think there's a lot of people that feel really uncomfortable with putting themselves out there on that scale. But it can be as small as connecting with other teachers in your school or in your school district. and doing some collaboration in those regards, whether it's, bringing in a new program like a math or a language arts program in an elementary school. We have district mandated collaboration days that have allowed some time that opens up those doors so teachers can go answer those inquiry questions and start to change their practice. So I think that's a progressive step, just as long as you're working with other people, and it can't always be in isolation because you're never going to push your mindset by yourself. You need to bounce those ideas back and forth off of somebody, so find someone you're comfortable with.
And Victoria, I think you touched a little bit on another important aspect of this is leadership. I mean, you're provided that time and the space by your district. I mean, Amy, you talked about taking teachers to conferences, and I know because we're friends and we hang out in some of the same places. Like, you will bring 2/3 of your teachers to an event so that you have this shared common experience that everybody learns together. But I think that there's an aspect of leaders creating that space. I mean, I hear a little bit about what Jason Markey's doing in Illinois about kind of these PLN groups within his schools that are just focusing on innovating in the classroom, and it's creating those spaces, but also creating them in such a way that powerful, transformative conversations happen. And so you don't, like, I don't remember if it was Victoria or Franz, but one of you said that it's not all about, you don't have to have an online PLN, but you need somebody to build ideas with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this, and I'll throw this out there. When I was a teacher in Clark County, Las Vegas, I want to say my first conference I went to was probably about 1999. It was the NCTM conference for mathematics. And I remember it was in Las Vegas, and I didn't even know about it because I didn't even know about conferences. I'd been teaching for like 4 years or whatever, and the district didn't push me to do those things. My mom paid for me and said, here, take a couple days off and tell them you'll pay for it and do that. And I remember when I went to them, so it's like my mom and then some of my old teachers from my old school district came out with her. So like my old 3rd and 4th grade teachers literally came out with my mom, and we went to this conference, and the lines were so long for things that we're just like, oh, heck, we'll blow it off. And then we went and, gambled or whatever. Those guys are all retired, so they can't get in trouble now. But that's seriously my first conference. I didn't even know that conferences were out there in like the late 90s. And then I went to a couple sessions. I was like, that's interesting. But the rest of the time, we were just goofing around. And we were like, oh, this line's too long. Let's go and eat and do some different things. And that was my first conference. If you would have observed my actions there, you'd be like, oh my gosh, that guy's not wasting time, wasting money. He's just treating it like a holiday. But so that was my first one.
That's where my just like mission to get my teachers, and I don't know, I mean, we could have like a whole nother conversation about PD versus networking, but that as a teacher for 7 years, no one ever offered for me to go to any conference. I didn't know. Of course, if someone would have asked me, I'm sure I could have figured out that they existed, but I had never heard of them. And I had 2 principals who I absolutely adored as a teacher. And it just wasn't a part of the culture of where I was teaching. And so that's where I have made it, a mission. Like, yeah, someone will pay for your hotel room. Someone is going to value you to go and spend time just meeting other people who are working so hard just like you every day. And I mean, I'm now at the point where I'm frustrated because in my little week at a glance memo, I'm putting all these conferences on there and like no one's even signing up now. They're like, Amy, we need a little break, But I think about the people who don't have those opportunities. And, today I registered for NAESP, which I'm really excited about. It's just the elementary school principals from around the country conference. Is going to be in Long Beach this year. And I've never been to a conference just with elementary principals, so I'm a little excited, a little nervous. But it said, like, what's the primary reason for you coming? And there were 4 choices. I don't remember what 2 of them were. One was professional development, and the other was networking. And I was sitting next to my colleague, Katina Haugen, like, is it okay to say that I'm just excited for happy hour with all these people? But, I'm going there to learn, of course, too. But I just think that for the whole teacher experience at a conference, we can all, there's the whole philosophy on sit and get, and then what you're describing, Refrans, which sounds amazing at EduCon, but just like getting people out and getting to network and meet other people, I think just that connection is just, can open our minds so much.
I think a lot happens in those informal settings too, and I think that's really what needs to be gotten at, because when you meet people at these conferences, they become a connection, and however you connect with them, I don't care if it's through Twitter or Facebook or email or whatever you do, that's someone that you can continue to talk to. And the other thing that I've been kind of reflecting on is that when someone hires me, they hire my network. So they're hiring, the however many people that are behind me, or the people that support me from day to day in my classroom practice. So that's an important point as well, for leaders to kind of take a look at.
Mm-hmm. But I think conferences have, a responsibility there too, because typically what happens is the conference is planned during the week, and the reason why you don't get teachers there is because it's during the week. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's the sub issue, you can't get a sub. And then the other part is, again, we live in these roles of who the teacher is and what the teacher does, that when you have specialized people in districts that do some more specialized jobs, those people are the ones who get first dibs at going to these places, because they don't have to have a sub, and that is their job, to kind of go continue to learn. And so we have to build this, I think we have to build this need of kind of not only creating a way to get more classroom teachers, but reaching out and making sure that we do it. And that's something that doesn't happen when a conference is, when, like, I'm at TCEA. This conference is, it started, I think, today, and with like some of the early sessions, and it's going through Friday. Taking off a week of school in order to do this is it's just not possible for a lot of people, and they never get to go.
Yeah, and then the best get better, and the gap gets wider.
Yep.
Ooh, that's like a place to end this, to continue this conversation.
To be continued. So, Refrant, I was going to ask you, how many years in a row have you been to EduCon?
You would think I've been there forever. This was only year 2, but I'll never miss it again.
Oh, okay. Year 2, okay. Well, hey, I love IPDX. I've only been there for 2 years. This will be my 3rd, so I'm with you on that one. It doesn't. If you find your spot, it doesn't take you long to be like, yes, this is my place, kind of thing.
No, I'm honestly struggling at TCEA because I have to go back to the standard session. Mm-hmm. Although I didn't do that. Like, I did a session today, and I did not go in with 20 slides. I went in and said, all right, what do you know? Where do you want to go? Sort of the EdCamp-ish way of doing it. Where do you want to go? And went from their questions to build what that more hands-on session should have been, instead of me just standing there boring the room half to death.
You wouldn't bore the room half to death anyway, even if you had slides. But I know a guy that did that at a state conference, and his name was Carl Lindgren-Stryker, and I believe 4 of the 5 of us were there when he turned all the chairs around. And I'm going to go in a second and meet his other counterpart, Diane Main, right as they're texting me and saying, hey, where are you? We're going to come down. So this is my conference right here. I'm going to go to the little social hour and see if I can learn some more, because we have some great people here in Idaho. Well,
wait, did you accuse me of talking at people for an hour with millions of slides?
Who did?
Did you just accuse me of talking at people for like an hour?
No, I accused you of the exact opposite, where you used no slides and you turned all the chairs in and had the EdCamp style. I still think that was pretty darn awesome, and I'm pretty sure, Amy, you were there. I know Victoria was there. Amy, were you there too, right?
I was there. Yeah.
Yeah. That was. I thought that was really good, and so you can do it. You can beat the system.
We did that. We did that session at Fall Q, and it was a freaking blast. The cool thing about that is we did that session on like midday on day 1, I think, and we went back on the second day of the conference. All of the desks were still in a circle. So somebody had to deal with that, and we unfortunately that session got rejected for annual Q, but then they had somebody drop out, and Diane and I were deemed acceptable to rerun.
Oh, so you got it back in now?
Yeah.
All right, so it's back in.
So hopefully, and John, I heard you're going to be there, but hopefully we'll see you again with the chairs in the circle and nobody talking to anybody.
I sure will. I've talked to the Super Bowl commercial Teacher of the Year, Scott Bedley. If you didn't see him on the Super Bowl commercial yesterday. So anyway, Scott is
For
talking,
Microsoft.
Scott is talking me into it for Microsoft, but that is okay. I think he's bringing the cool back to Microsoft. Watch out for them. If they know Scott Bedley, I think they're on their way up.
This is true. This is true.
Don't call it a comeback. Hey, Refront, I was going to give you some Edgicon theme music here. Let's see if I got it still. Here we go. You hear it? My Montel Jordan. This is how we do it. This is how we do
I'm
it.
not even going to comment on the fact that my theme music is hip hop. We'll leave it at that. I'm just
That was your Edgicon theme music.
You probably should have been at the session where we talked about race, because there's a reason why music was hip hop. I'm just going to leave it at that. Because,
oh my gosh, you didn't hear the lyric. I'm talking about the lyrics. This is how we do it.
I hear you, but you sure did go into the
Oh my gosh, you're the one. I keep telling you in the Voxer.
And Montel Jordan, of all people, really?
You don't like Montel Jordan? What is this?
John, edit here. John, edit here.
Yeah, John, edit here. Fideji, do you like Montel Jordan? Do you like This Is How We Do It? That's a good song.
I'm suddenly in my 8th grade dance, and I am breaking down some moves.
That's a great song, no matter what it is. You know what else? I like Styx, Babe, too, but that, I don't know. The lyrics didn't fit with the Edgicon theme there. Unless you think that, I don't even know, unless they're bringing a pig or something. All right, so anyway, thank you for being on the show, everybody.
That was all in fun. I just wanted to put an asterisk beside that and say that was all in fun. John knows that I am messing with him, but he also knows that I will not pull back from saying things like that. So we're good.
I don't mind if you say things like that, but Montel Jordan, that's a good song. That's all I'm saying.
I'd like to put in a request for some Genuine next week, if that's possible.
And Missy Elliott. Can we have Missy Elliott?
Hey, so Refront,
back.
Did you see Missy Elliott on the Super Bowl? Did you guys watch the Super Bowl? And I was like, boy, Missy Elliott did like a 3-song set. I was so proud of her stopping the Katy Perry insanity on the Lion, Tiger, whatever she was on. And Missy, I was like, is that Missy Elliott? And she just came in and threw like 3-song medley down. I was so happy. I was
that's
like,
the way to end Techlandia.
Really excited about Katy Perry who are on this podcast.
I was not excited about the Katy Perry.
There were sharks. Okay,
the sharks were kind of cute though.
Just saying.
I like the sharks. I'm just saying. But anyway.
But this is the perfect ending before we have to. I don't want to make a really bad Seattle joke, so we're still kind of soft on that. Thank you everybody for listening and watching.
Refront, I'm so glad you're cutting us off, because if we were to keep going, I would probably remind Carl that the night before he and I met, I was at a New Kids on the Block Boys II Men concert. So.
Whoa.
Woo! It's been real, everybody.
That's a good one. Well, I think who is New Kids on the Block touring with right now?
Actually, Amy, we have that in common. The last concert I went to was New Kids on the Block and the Jabberwockies.
Yeah, baby.
Well, and I think if we really, really want to get into it, we can make fun of Carl for his band choice. Oh, wait, the only band choice of his whole entire life.
That's right. Fish.
Oh.
That's all Carl ever goes to is Fish concerts. So
not the only band of my entire life, but that's the only band I go to see.
No, he's lying. It is the only band in his entire life.
I imagine Kurt Reese pressing the pause button and demanding that we stop this right now.
That's okay. You know what? The good thing is.
And Amy, any last words?
Nope, I'm done. Kurt Trees, you're my favorite. We're done. We're out of here for you. Kurt Trees, we love you.
And we'll catch you on the flip side. There you go.